Okay, everyone, today I'm going to go ahead and go over the potential changes that are going to be happening to the T110 and E5 in the next patch. They're going to be nerfing the armor on the commander's cupola, which I think is a very bad thing. However, they're also going to be nerfing the side armor, which is right behind the drive wheel, which I do believe is a good thing, and we should expand upon that even further to balance the tank. So we're going to go ahead over to the armor view. So this is basically the T110E5. You have about a 250 plus or minus 20 armor on the top. And I think they should leave this alone. What I do think they should do is change this lower plate and nerf it. Because as you can see now that we're getting pretty high numbers, and tier 8s are going to have a hard time against this. And even some tier 10s when you get some wonky angles. And I think that nerfing this is actually going to balance the tank a lot more, as well as force it into the playstyle that this tank should have. Now this is the side armor. It's a 250mm plate right there behind that. And look at this, like sometimes you're getting over 1,000 millimeters of armor, and I just speechless about that. Good thing they're changing it. But I guess we're gonna go ahead over into the game right quick. But I'm gonna be going over how I think the reasons why these changes should be made, and my idea should be made instead of what Wargaming is doing, as well as, you know, stress the fact that Wargaming has not learned from their past mistakes. So the T110E5 suits really one role in the game, and its intentional purpose is a decent gun depression heavy with relatively good speed, a relatively good reload, and good gun depression with a strong turret. Now, this follows through along the entire line, but on this tank, for some reason, the entire frontal armor, the frontal plates of this tank are also extremely strong. So we're going to get to that. Now we're going to look at the other tanks in the game that, you know, when you really think about it. So as far as a good tank with good gun depression, all of the other heavies with good gun depression really are like the 50B, and you know, you can't really compare those. So whenever you go into, say, tanks with high DPM, really we're talking about the T57 Heavy, which is an autoloader, so we can exclude that. The 113, which doesn't have good gun depression, and the FV2 and 5B, which is kind of silly, so we're going to kind of leave that out because it's not beginner friendly. So with the removal of the cupola armor, the T110E5 will really lose its ability to play this hull down position that no other tank really has the ability to do. However, there is a thing that the E5 can do right now, which is push out into the open, into the enemy guns, and just keep charging at them, because half the time the enemy is going to bounce off of that lower plate. And it's right to say that the E5 should not have this capability. I think the E5 should follow the line that it progressed with, which is a good hull down tank with decent DPM, decent penetration, and, you know, strong upper plates and weak lower plates, which, again, nerfing the lower plate would put this tank in line with the rest of its line in the game. It'd be more like a tier 10 T32. Now, some other problems with the T110E5 would be the fact that it gets ammo racked a lot. And I think this is also going to be hurt by nerfing that lower plate, but I do think it is, in fact, another balancing factor. It can be toned down just a little, but this balancing factor of hiding that lower plate to stop your ammo rack from being hit, because the ammo rack is in fact in that hull, will further reinforce the playstyle of keeping this tank hull down. Now we ask, how will you fight this tank from being hull down? Well, simple. It's already in the game. You load gold, shoot that cupola, or you flank it. The sides are very weak, and albeit right now, currently, there is a problem with the sides. And they are fixing it, and hopefully that does solve a lot of the problems. So I think this would push the T110E5 further into that role that it should be playing in the game. I think it should keep the mobility. I think it should keep all the gun stats right now. It's just that extra fact of the armor that will further push it into the playstyle that it needs to be playing to make it different from other tanks. Now, we could talk about how Wargaming refuses to learn from the past. The T110E5, pre-buff to its commander's hatch, was not a very good tank. It was slightly below average, and it did need a bit of a buff. Whether or not the commander's hatch buff was intentional or not, it did raise the T110E5 above into the acceptable level, but slightly past it, and it's now considered quote-unquote overpowered. However, I think a part of this is because people were used to shooting that cupola, and then once they got used to not shooting that anymore, the lower plate's kind of a mystery with if it's going to pin or not due to the crazy angles and the armor values on it. Now I think if we remove that, it would be a lot easier to kill, especially for lower tier tanks, which this tank can currently just bully right now. Now, if they continue with the nerf that they're going to do in patch 9.17.1, this is going to bring the T110E5 back to where it was. And I don't think this is a route that we should be going. The tank obviously had an issue back then, and it's not something that you want to do with your player base, constantly running around in circles trying to fix your tanks. Try a different approach. They're making the same changes and reverting it back to how it was, and I don't think that should be something that they should do, especially with tanks like the introduction of the Grilla in the game, which, by the way, the gun really isn't being changed accuracy-wise. I mean, the T110E5 still suffers from tank destroyers still being able to just go through the turret, the cupola. And I just don't feel like Wargaming is showing any intention of learning from the past, and this doesn't show any hope for me for whenever they're going to try and make changes to other tanks that need to be changed. And I don't know if I really want to keep supporting a company that's going to be doing that. So I want to know what you think in the description, in the comments down below. What do you think of my changes? If you think they would be better to further balance the T110E5 and force it to fight those hull down engagements instead of being out in the open, and where it really only succeeds in those hull down engagements, and where it's really can be picked apart whenever it's out in the open, as this tank should. Let me know down in the comments, and please share the ideas with your friends, see what they think, and if you really like it, tell Wargaming, please. And this was my first ace. I haven't been playing this tank much ever since I unlocked it, but here we go, and the Grill, which is another tank that's getting nerfed, pulled off 7,000 damage that game. I'm Cajun Terror. I'll see you next time.